Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of the training. In this particular section, we will see introduction about SAP Landscape. In this session, we will learn about SAP Product Portfolio and SAP Business Suite as well as SAP NetWeaver. It is very important as an SAP system administrator, we need to understand the roles of different SAP systems in the SAP landscape before we decide how we are going to configure the transport management system. So for that, first let us review the SAP portfolio. SAP ERP is an application. SAP offers SAP application in different areas that we know. SAP SRM, that is supplier relationship management, PLM, that is product lifecycle management, and CRM, customer relationship management, and SCM, supply chain management. So all this product is called business suite, SAP business suite, meaning to say inside SAP application in a license perspective also, SAP business suite, let's say you have a license for SAP business suite, that means we have the license for all the products within SAP business suite, or PLM or SRM or CRM or SCM. So here what we need to understand in a technology perspective, as a basis consultant, you can see the product of SAP ERP or the business suite has SAP NetWeaver as an integral part, as an essential part of your business suite or your SAP ERP systems. Okay, all other components can be an additional add-on or an customer installation, additional customer installations we can say. So as a result, customer can use the functionality in SAP NetWeaver, whatever the product they select. So they can use the functionality, the underlying functionality which is available in NetWeaver. The functionality means the integration between SAP and non-SAP product, which also is one of the most important functionality of SAP NetWeaver. This can be used in any product. That means irrespective of the product we select, this can be used. As well as if, let's say, if we have the licensing for SAP business suite, then we have licensing for SAP ERP, which is the core of our SAP business, which is the core of our business. On top of it, we have also licensing for all the related products which is coming along with the business suite, which is also built around SAP ERP. The platform which we use, irrespective of the product we are going to install or irrespective of the landscape which you are going to design, the product is based on SAP NetWeaver technology. SAP NetWeaver technology, meaning to say we have different components in SAP NetWeaver technology. For example, SAP NetWeaver application server, or let's say for example SAP NetWeaver BW, or it can be portal. So this portal also can be available in all the products, which can be used from the underlying technology of SAP NetWeaver, as well as PI, as well as MDM, that is master data management. Like this, we have several products or several components which is available in NetWeaver, which can be used in all the components which we are going to build in this particular landscape. Again, it depends based on your requirement, what kind of landscape or what kind of landscape which is required for your customer or your company. As we know, SAP also provides the industry applications, which are also part of our SAP product portfolio, which can be as an extension, which can be called as an extension of SAP business suite in the SAP application. For example, industry application, which has the single component in SAP R3, Now it is provided as an add-on to SAP component. Here in this particular presentation, you can see the different ECC releases, which gives you the overview of the functionalities, like either it can be a basis or a functional, and you can see the ECC related releases in SAP system. So you can, from 4.6c we have gone upwards, then we have ECC. On ECC 6 presently, which we are using, the ECC 6 which we are using nowadays, SAP provides you enhancement packages which is called EHP. You can also use EHP 0. The system which we are demonstrating right now is an EHP 0 system. However, right now we have EHP still EHP 7. You can see different releases, and you can also see the NetWeaver versions, as well as you can see the enhancement package version. So the new enhancements coming from SAP will be delivered as an enhancement package. This enhancement package can be downloaded by any customer from the service marketplace. The service marketplace is that OSS which we have seen, which we briefly discussed before. Using this service marketplace, the customer can download the enhancement package, and you can upgrade the existing ECC system to have the additional functionality which is available in each EHP packages. So just to review what we have seen so far, this is a system diagram which is showing Java as well as ABAP system together. Even though SAP strongly recommends to have two different systems for ABAP as well as Java, which is again depends on how you want to design your system. However, SAP also recommends to have dual stack, for example, SAP PI and SAP Solution Manager in cases where Java as well as ABAP is required in these two cases. You can see here ICM, that is the Internet Communication Manager, is an interface to the internet. It can deal with web request as a server as well as a client, which we have seen it before. It supports several protocols like HTTP and HTTPS, as well as SMTP, that is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, as well as the SAP NetWeaver Application Server can also be used as a web server and as well as a web client. And then we have ABAP dispatcher, which dispatch the request to the work process. If all the work processes are busy at the moment, then the requests are queued in the dispatcher queue, then it will dispatch based on the availability of the work processes. As well as we have the ABAP work processes, and also which is used for basically to execute the ABAP coding. We have the message server, that which exchange a message can be also performed, which is used for exchanging messages. This message server also can perform load balancing in the SAP system. On the Java side, we have the component called SDM, that is for the software development manager, as well as we have the Java connector, that is the JCO Java connector, which is to communicate between SAP ABAP stack as well as Java stack in the SAP NetWeaver system in both the directions. In this particular presentation, you can see the SAP recommended landscape. This landscape is recommended by SAP in different aspects. First of all, let's say if you are talking about protecting application data, the concept behind that is, which we've seen, that we have different clients and we have the client roles. You can also use the clients to have different applications, and you can protect the data based on that, as well as we can have authorization concept to protect this data. So the SAP recommended landscape is a 3-system landscape, whereas you have development system, quality assurance system, and the production systems. So that you have an authorization concept which is entirely from entirely different from each different system, whereas in the productive system you have an authorization concept which is quite restrictive, that the business data cannot be manipulated or cannot be seen by unauthorized people. Whereas if you have the systems in one central systems, if you keep it in one system, then it will be quite complex. It will not be easy to manage or easy to protect this data in the authorization perspective. Second thing is, like, we do the development activity and quality assurance as well as the production activity in separate environment to make sure the consistency of the repository object. So we have seen how the customizing and the workbench object works now. So the consistency, in order to keep the consistency of the repository object, then we need to have three different landscapes, so that when you are developing any repository object or when you are changing any repository object, then you do the changes in the development system, then that changes will be transported to your QA system. Then you check the changes whether the repository object are changed properly. Once the quality assurance is done properly, then you can move to production, so that you are already aware, you are already tested the repository object changes in the quality system thoroughly, so that the productive system will not be affected or the productive data will not be affected by these changes what we are doing. As well as it also secures and stables the production environment. For example, let's say we do the development in the productive system. We have a program, we want to do some modification in the same program. Okay, the program is for some updating some records in the SAP systems, then you are going to do modification in the productive system. Let's assume if you make any changes in the productive system in the program directly, and the changes was not consistent and it was not logically performed, then it can affect the entire data. In your entire data can be affected by the changes. As well as when you are doing the changes and you cannot use this program, you have quite a lot of complexity here. So using this three system landscape, that you can ensure a stable productive environment for your production data. That is one of the main objective of three system landscape. The three system landscape is the landscape which is recommended by SAP to all customer. So as we seen, the three system landscape is the one recommended by SAP. The development which is happening in the system should be developed in the separate development system, and it should be tested in the test system or quality assurance system. Then the object should be imported to the productive system. Let's assume you have a system, a single system landscape, which has different clients for development and test and production. Then you can think of what you will do the cross-client customizing object and the repository object. If there is a possibility of keeping this everything in single system with different clients, the stability of the business process will be totally destroyed. The reason is that if you do any cross-client customizing, or if you do any repository object change, or if you do any development change of the program, that will affect the entire system. So that is the main problem in single system landscape. Even though you have three different clients, you can separate it by clients. The clients you can separate it only for the customizing object, client independent objects. So let's assume what happens with the two system landscape. Two system landscape, the production will be stable because you have a separate system, so the production can be stable. However, if you keep the development and testing in the same system, then the problem will be the testing scenario. During the testing, you cannot do any cross-client customizing, or you cannot have consistency in cross-client customizing and the repository object changes. So the test environment may not be stable as we want. However, the two system landscape also possible in some of the clients. The reason is the development as well as the test which is done, the development which is done, for example, in this particular landscape or in the particular system, which is very less, meaning to say you will not have a chance, let's assume it like that, you will not have a chance that you want to do a development and put it into testing and there is multiple people doing the development systems, then you do not have a chance. Let's say this is a very minimal change required. Let's assume this productive system or this landscape requires very minimal change. In that case, if let's say you are having a change in development system, once you fully developed and it will be transferred to test system, then you are going to test it properly in the test client, then that time when you are testing you do not have any possibility to do development, then this will be possible, this is feasible. Then you can have development and test in two different clients, then it is possible to transport into production when this is stable in the your test client. Okay, so only the customizing object will be different from one client to another client. The repository customizing, cross-client customizing and repository will be same. In some scenarios we can still use two system landscape. However, the best scenario or best landscape recommended SAP landscape is three system landscape with different clients. In this landscape, let's assume that you have multiple productive systems. In that case also, their development can be tested in the test system and you can transport the changes to multiple development system. That is possible. However, you have to make sure all the development comes from one development systems. If you have more than one development system, then it's going to be complicated because your repository object and the cross-client customizing object may not be synchronized with two different systems. So you will have a conflict or you will have a version conflict when you are transporting such kind of object to test or productive system. So the best way is you can have one development system and you can have multiple production system. That should be. So the best way is you should have one development system and you can have test and productive system can be multiple systems. In that scenario, all the development is going to be originated from one single system so that the customizing as well as the cross-client customizing and repository object will be same as the development system, so that it does not have any conflict or this will not have a version problem when you are transporting to test and productive systems. Here also SAP strongly recommends to have single system or a single client for all the customizing object. And SAP also recommends to have a proper authorization concept in all the systems for development system as well, in order to classify the customizing as well as the developer, or the customizer as well as the developer, in order to differentiate the customizer and the developer. So the developer will do only the development changes and the customizer or the functional team will do only the customizing changes, so that you can have a proper authorization concept in the development starting from the development itself. And also it's very important that you need to have a proper authorization concept for creating the TR and releasing the TR and approving the TR. When you are creating the transport request in the development system, you need to specify who can create a transport request, who can release the transport request. That is very important, or who can modify the transport request. This is very important. So you need to have an authorization concept for the developer as well as customizing, and you should have authorization concept. How are you going to handle the transport request? Who is going to release it? Who is going to modify it? Or who is going to transport? Or who is going to create it? Who is going to modify it? Who is going to release the transport request? Or let's say if you want to go further deeper, who the roles for task, and you can also create role for the transport request. And it is always better you document all the changes what you are doing in the SAP system. SAP also provides tools for you to document the changes which you are doing in the SAP system, so that it is quite visible for everybody that what is the changes it has been, what is the changes which was carried out in the SAP system. Now let us see what is CTS. CTS means transport. CTS means change and transport system. This concept is introduced quite some time back in SAP. And the CTS have two different main parts. One is CTO, and that is change and transport organizer. This we have seen it already, that how you create a transport request and how you can organize the transport request. Basically, we have two different transaction codes here, SE01 and SE09. This is two different transactions where you can organize the transport request. SE09 is just simple one. SE01 is actually an extended view, and we have STMS, that is TMS, transport management system. We will be calling this transport management system TMS system using the transaction code STMS. This STMS only you can configure the landscape and how the import request or the TR should be imported to STM, how the transport should be transported to different system. Using the STMS also you can import the transport request to your particular system. As we seen, the STMS, when you are importing or when you are releasing the transport, there will be a lot of tools, the transport tools which works with the operating system. In order to fulfill the STMS, or in order to fulfill the TMS or CTO process, there is tools like TP and R3 trans or RDDI jobs which will help to fulfill this particular request. If we go to the system, we can see this one, SE01 and SE09. First, let's go to the transaction code SE09. If you go to SE09, it will take you to the transport organizer where you can create transport requests from here. For example, so far what we have seen, whenever do any changes, it will automatically create a transport request. Again, this depends on your client setting. So if you want to create your own transport request, you can create it here. You have different kind of transport request, that is customizing request, workbench request, transport of copies. Transport of copies means you can merge different transport together or copy it to a different transport request and you want transported to different systems. And you can also see the request status, it's modifiable as well as released. And release also you can see based on the date and time, based on the selection criteria. Let's say I say modifiable. Let's say I want to display all the TRs which is created by user SAP basis, which is on the status modifiable, all the customizing request. If I say display, it says there is no customizing request involved. Let's go back and say workbench request. Right now we have some workbench request which we have created for this printer setup. Then we have some workbench request which we have created during our course. So it does not have a customizing request. Let's say we have any released request. So we also have some TRs which is already released. You can see this tick mark, that means it is already released. If you want to create a TR, you simply click this button. Here you can specify what kind of TR which you are going to create, whether it's a customizing TR or a workbench request. When you say OK, then it will ask you to put some description. Let's say PC test TR creation in SE09. Save. We need to specify the target and all these things. So far this is a fresh system, we have not configured the transport management, so that's the reason we leave it blank at the moment. Right now you can see it has created one transport request as well as it has created one task inside that. So right now this is a blank, it does not have any object. You can double click here and you can double click here and you can see here, you can go to the change mode, you can add object manually if it is required. Okay, This is SE09. If you go to SE01, that is an extended view which has different tabs. Okay, so that you can classify based on your selection criteria here. Here, if you specify a transport request, you can also display the transport request. Let's take one transport request, this one, say display, then you can see what is the transport request, and if you want to release it, you can simply select this and say release directly, then this particular transport request will be released. Okay, if I say released, it will get released. Okay, now if I say select this one and say release, now what it will do is it will create the file in the operating system level. The same time, it will also use this program like TP program in order to create these files. So it works with the operating system closely to create the files in the operating system. So that's what we have seen. Whenever you create a TR, the actual objects will be created as a raw file, as a file in the operating system of your SAP system. So let's go back to our presentation. And we also have STMS where we'll configure the entire landscape, the transport management system. We will see in our coming sessions how we can configure STMS in SAP Landscape. Okay, with this we are coming to the end of the session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.